Okay, sorry, Pat. We are now recording for the purposes of the proper and appropriate minutes.
No taking.
Sorry, go ahead, Pat.
Okay, so Pat Frost, facilitator.
And Carol?
Carol Fall, North Lake resident, member of the collaborative, and I don't know what else. Trying to get the camera working.
All right. I'm going to go in order that I saw folks here. So Sally.
Hi, Sally, Recreation Program Manager for the Forest Service here in Weaverville and the whole Trinity side of the forest.
Jeremy Brown.
Hello, I'm Jeremy Brown, District 4 County Supervisor.
Welcome, Jeremy. Paul.
Paul Hooser, General Manager, Trinity PUD and Collaborative member.
Morning, Paul. Thank you. Mike.
Mike Dixon, dual hatting, representing Trinity River Restoration Program and U.S. Bureau of Reclamation, as well as Trinity County Fish and Game Advisory Commission.
Thanks, Mike. Welcome. Serge, you're new to the new here.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I'm Serge Mahalo. I'm a Trinity County outdoors recreation supporter, and I'm here to hear Supervisor Brown's presentation.
Great. Well, welcome, Serge. Thank you for joining us. Let's see, Chris.
Am I muted? Can y'all hear me?
I can hear you.
I'm not used to Zoom. Chris Losey, District Ranger, South Fork Management Unit, Hayfork, and Forest Service. And I'd like to ask. I need to leave at 11 for another meeting, so just wanted to let you know if there's something you needed from me. I'm happy to go before 11. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Good morning. Welcome. Sarah Akeridge.
Good morning, everyone. Sarah Akeridge. I'm the District Ranger for the National Recreation Area on the Shasta Trinity National Forest.
Great. Good to see
and
you,
I have had my whole Zoom call drop like 3 times.
Whoa.
And I'm trying to get back into the call.
Okay. Okay, we were cutting out a little bit there just now too, so we'll bear with, everybody will have to bear with us. Okay, Laura.
Hi, I'm Laura Bradhead. I'm an assistant field manager with the Reading BLM office. And Jessica here is new to the group and with the BLM, so maybe she could go next.
Okay, and Jessica.
Hi, yeah, this is Jessica. I just had to join by phone. Sorry about that for the audio part. I'm not sure what I might have missed here.
Oh, just your name and title.
Okay. Just the outdoor recreation planner and non-motorized trails and river. So up that way a bit.
Great. Thank you. Welcome, Jessica, and thanks, Laura. Let's see. Ross and Susan. You're on mute.
Hi, I'm Susan. I'm a community member of the collaborative.
I'm Ross. I'm Susan's husband.
All right. Welcome to you. Let's see. I have a Richard McLaughlin.
I'm Rick McLaughlin from Colorado. Jeremy asked me to listen.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'll make sure to get a hold of the person that gave me that check and get it back in. Thank you for bringing.
Sorry. So, go ahead, Rick.
Hi, Rick McLaughlin from Colorado. Jeremy Brown asked me to to listen in here. I'm a consulting engineer.
Very good. Well, welcome. Thank you. Let's see. I have a Carly Shelton.
Hi there, this is Grant and Carly, and we are whitewater enthusiasts interested in this presentation by Jeremy Brown.
Well, fantastic. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. And Christian Figueroa.
Good morning. My name is Christian Figueroa. I'm an engineering geologist, also a whitewater enthusiast, and I'm just participating. I'm a member of the community. Thank you.
Okay. Welcome, Christian. Thank you. Pat, I'm going to turn this over to you. I know that there's actually been a few requests besides Chris as far as like timeliness. So I'm not sure how we should exactly proceed, but should we?
Well, I guess,
do
so
the
can
line
people hear me
officers
okay?
first?
I'm thinking let's take up the standing wave proposal first.
Okay.
Because I think Jeremy's got another commitment that's pretty firm. So we'll do that, then we'll do the line officer stuff and kind of go from there.
Very good. All right, so take it away, Jeremy.
All right, so this is my first screen share. Hold on a second here. All right.
We see it.
Here we are. Can you guys see that?
Yes.
Okay. So I lost my little speaking notes. I'll just be winging my speaking, but I'm not an avid kayaker. I've gone down the river a few times and rafted a few times. I like fly fishing and stuff, but I've been surrounded by a lot of friends and exposure to the whitewater community here, either through businesses or activities or like I said, just long-term friends having kayaked on the river. I didn't realize it was so internationally acclaimed in a destination, having the Burnt Ranch Gorge, obviously the Big Flat area, but even the upriver area with its really mellow class 1, class 2 kind of stuff. It's a full diverse range of whitewater, and I've been honored to learn about it and experience it. I did, however, miss my opportunity to go down the Burnt Ranch Gorge, which I regret, but hopefully I'll get another opportunity to do that again. So getting to the slides here, the slide here on the bottom left is actually on the Trinity River that is in Hawkins Bar, and that is a natural standing wave. I know some people might not know much about standing waves, so I'll try to give a simple breakthrough. It's typically an object, a rock, or an obstruction in the river that creates this wave appeal that can be surfed or supped or kayaked, and they range in size. So this, it says why Whitewater Park. We can call standing waves or parks. Different areas have different approaches. Some have multiple features, some are single feature, but they all come with these accumulative impacts being positive: economic stimulus, education, youth programs, recreation, adaptive management, and stream restoration. I have a little video here. It's like 2-minute video, but I think it's really nice. It breaks down the project in Salida, Colorado, which I thought was kind of similar to the Weaverville area. And it's about 2 minutes, but it's a nice intro to standing waves. And so I'll go ahead with that, and then we'll proceed again after that.
Not hear any audio. Still not got the audio.
Sorry, we can't actually hear the audio from the video. You have to share your
shit.
screen in a specific way. If you want to unshare and then click the right buttons, I can probably walk you through it, or we can just keep going. It's great video, but we can't hear the sound.
Okay, well, that's okay. I don't want to cause technical stuff. That, you know, that was good enough for that portion of the video, I think. And let me get back to the presentation. There we go, I think. Sorry about that, guys. So Salida is like a town of about 6,000 people. And that was one of the reasons why I thought it was a nice way to see how it was impact. That last guy talking was the mayor of the town. And when I watched the video, it made me think like, oh, that could be in Weaverville or something, a similar community. So, you know, the low battery, awesome. The Water Control Quality Act emphasizes recreation as one of the aspects within its wording and everything. And so kind of want to emphasize on that. The multitude of user groups that can access this ranges from rafters and kayakers and canoeists, river surfers, fishermen. The list goes on. Youth programs, education is obviously a huge component. Here you can see some of the other economic studies done on other whitewater parks across the country. A lot of these are in Colorado, but it shows the impact they've had, how many people are using it throughout the year. I think the closest one to us is in Auburn. So locally looking here, what was kind of theorized is the opportunity at the Lewiston Dam and below the dam here. This is just a basic Google image, but you have an existing feature here. This is the actual image at the dam. And so you have a standing wave that's pretty much already in the river. And what these actual designs and installations of standing waves do is make it a little bit more controlled and adaptive to the different flow rates in the river, which is kind of important for the Trinity. So the flow ranges for standing waves can range anywhere from 200 CFS, I believe, up to like 3,000 or more. But for the Lewiston area, as you can see here in the points, there's some nice existing features that make this a really nice spot for a diverse range of whitewater park and nature exposure. Lewiston is an up and coming little bustling community. And, you know, I think it would just make sense for this kind of area. And the flows are right. The drop in elevation is right. A second area that is looked at is in Big Flat. Big Flat traditionally has had competitions, slalom races. I'm not sure if they did freestyle there or not, but slalom was a big thing. Obviously, it's home to, I believe, 2 or 3 of the rafting companies in the county. Another prime location, there's actually a big old piece of a steel bridge that is close to creating a standing wave in one of the pools, kind of right at the tap business, which is towards the top of that red line. Again, a lot of the features are already in this area: the parking, the access, the rafting companies. A whitewater park and standing wave would really highlight this into an international recognition and turn this small seasonal community into a year-round opportunity. That's one of the perks of these waves, is that they offer year-round recreation for some places that would only be seasonally approached by river enthusiasts. So these are some of the points, again, related to the Big Flat, but I kind of already spoke to those. I had an error with one slide, but it was showing potential for the Junction City area. And this is where I might ask if Mike Dixon is willing to speak to this, because it's my understanding that some of the environmental reports done on the potential future Junction City restoration program site include the requirements that would encompass the installation of a standing wave. So Mike, are you out there and are you able to speak to that?
I am out here. I wish that I had more better news in terms of where we're at with that. But yeah, so Supervisor Brown and I had previously discussed the possibility that his interest in building standing waves to promote recreation could be permitted through some of our existing work that we have going on. And one of this, when I ran this by some of the engineers across the program, Fred Meyer, who's a consultant with one of our design teams, had identified that what we have described as our Upper Connor Creek project, that boundary includes a spot which might be suitable for a standing wave near the Junction City campground. And so as we move that project forward out of design and into permitting, we can probably incorporate the installation of this standing wave as part of our NEPA-CEQA compliance and include it in our 401 and 404 permitting for state and federal Clean Water Act compliance. So the one hangup and the reason that I said that I wish I had better news is that we've had some kind of some hiccups in the road with getting that project moved along because some of the major features of the project are not on public lands, they're on private land. And with some of the turnover in property ownership, we no longer have people who are interested in working with us on some of these features. So there's going to be some redesign probably necessary before we'll be able to move that project into the compliance phase. So it may or may not sync up with your timeline, Jeremy, but we'll definitely work with you as much as possible.
Thanks so much for that, Mike. And, I don't really have a timeline. This has been in, the early phases of discussion were about 7 years ago. And when I reached out to the engineer, McLaughlin, and Rick is on the line listening on, but I reached out to them and talked about feasibility for the Big Flat area and just got really excited about the potential, started looking at all the other projects around the country, state, and the world, and thought, this could be something really unique and special for the county to try to incorporate into the river restoration and building the recreational opportunities. So thank you for that, Mike. I'll just keep going through the presentation here. You can see some of those points there, but the 299 being its natural corridor with the highway, it's kind of an obvious opportunity to incorporate these ranges of class 5 plus all the way down to calm tubable waters and kid-friendly standing waves and stuff like that. So that's the top of the Burnt Ranch Gorge there, just when you get past the Burnt Ranch dump. Like I said, I missed my opportunity to be one of those people in that raft, and hopefully I'll get the opportunity again. I've heard it's just amazing down there. So I have some pictures of the other standing waves. This one is in Bend, and this one's kind of right outside of the downtown area. I believe it's a series of 4 standing waves. This one is in Reno. Once these wave installations go in, they get so much recognition and such a community process and partnerships with companies and other enthusiasts that you end up hosting your races year round and you get put on that map. That's one of the outcomes of this. And with that comes, the influx of participants. And when people come to Trinity County for the first time, it's typical if they have a good experience, they go back home and they say to their 10 friends or 10 other packers, man, you guys got to check that out. And it's a really good building block for increasing our tourism flow. This is in Golden, Colorado. Again, on that picture on the right and to the left, you could just say that might be the Trinity, and you might be able to convince somebody. This one here is in Auburn, and I think if Rick McLaughlin is online and wants to speak to this, feel free to speak out, Rick. But I believe this one was done by McLaughlin engineers and encompassed part of the dam removal process. I don't want to misspeak the information to that, but let's see.
Yeah, this is the only kind of whitewater, man-made whitewater feature, I guess, that's been built in California. And it was really not, it was kind of like a lot of the projects that we do is kind of an add-on. It was at the Auburn Dam site. So, but it's part of a diversion structure. In fact, if you look over to the left, you can kind of see some screens that are on the bottom of the river. But in any case, it was part of that restoration project. It's a bit utilitarian, but that's really because it's a functioning diversion. But this project was also civil engineering project of the year in California, and it passes fish. And, works quite well for fish screening and so forth.
Hey, Rick, this looks like that strip down the center and on the bank on the right-hand side is all, the rock is all concreted in? Like
which area? Which area?
Yeah, and maybe I'm not seeing it correctly, but it looks like that whole, the strip of rock down the center and then the bank on the right side of the picture is all concreted into place?
Mm-hmm.
So the whole thing is engineered.
Yeah, and so all of the features that you saw before were engineered too. You have to remember this is about under over 60 feet of water during flood flows. So this is really a modified dam structure, right? So its primary function is for whitewater and fish passage. So it's an actual a structure that happens to promote whitewater.
Thanks, Rick, for that explanation. This is one here in Buena Vista, Colorado. And I just want to show the different pictures of these standing waves because when I've shared this idea to people, some people don't know what it is. And I shared it with my mom and she said, it sounds like you're trying to build an amusement park on the river. And so just that knowledge that she had, or lack of knowledge, trying to make sure that people can see the diverse way that these waves can happen. This is in Gunnison, Colorado, Gore Canyon, Colorado. And a lot of these places are very rural. There's many more out there, and Mr. McLaughlin, their website has a bunch of projects, and some of them are more rural than Weaverville or aspects of Trinity County. And so, really what I see is an opportunity for Trinity County to kind of jump into this new way of incorporating technology, river restoration, and recreation to an international population that would buffer a lot of Trinity County's lower seasons with tourism and make for more year-round consistent visitors and a diverse age group. And it's not just kayakers, it brings out actual surfers, even boogie boarders, paddle boards, all of that, and competitions. Amazing opportunity. And I kind of wanted to finish this wave here, and there won't be any audio, I guess, but the wave itself, this is at a 200 CFS flow. So I'll just let that play and then see if there's any questions anyone has.
So this feature was just constructed in Denver, and river surfing now is becoming huge. What's unique about this feature here is it operates with only 200 cubic feet per second. So just a fraction of the flow that you usually have there. This feature, you'll come out like on a Tuesday morning at 7 o'clock. I'll come out with my daughter and there'll be 20 people there. So when I first started this kind of business, it was all about freestyle or slalom, kayaking, the Olympics and things like that. And then it was freestyle, but now these surf venues with a nice green wave just draw people from everywhere. So they've been very popular.
All right, well, that concludes my presentation there. So if anyone has any questions for either myself or maybe Mr. McLaughlin, feel free to reach out. But, you know, my hope is that just this will get the conversation going and start to connect some of the necessary dots between agencies, community groups, funding sources, to look at the feasibility of this and really see if it's something that the community would be interested in first and foremost, and then also if there's a way to incorporate it with the restoration program, or if not, to still work on it outside of the restoration program. So I really appreciate the time and opportunity to share this presentation, and I want to thank everybody that contributed to it. So thanks so much.
Go ahead, Mike.
See a hand raise feature in the version of Zoom that I'm pulling up right now. Guys wanted to chime in after Jeremy was done.
Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah. I just thanks Jeremy for presenting this, and I wanted to highlight that. So Colorado, much like California, has a knack for mispronouncing the names of its cities, much like we say Los Angeles. It's they say Salida locally, and Buena Vista, which is the most perverse twisting of a Spanish word I've ever heard. But the reason that I bring that up is I think both Salida and Buena Vista, which have done something like this, are great examples of communities that aren't that dissimilar in size from Weaverville, that have really embraced four-season recreation as a way to bring tourism into their communities. And I mean, they are really destinations for people from not just the state of Colorado, but from out of state. You'd be hard pressed to find half the license plates not being Texas in Salida when you're visiting sometimes. So I just think it's a great idea to pursue as a way to sort of broaden the appeal of Trinity County as a destination for recreation. But that's all.
Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, oh, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Laura. You go first. You had your hand
Okay.
up.
I was just wondering, like you showed 3 different kind of options for locations. What was where did those options come from, I guess? Like what sort of features were you looking for, that sort of thing?
Jeremy, you're muted.
Sorry. It's my understanding you need about 2 feet least of elevation change. And so between the required CFS and then the elevation change, those are kind of the main engineering requirements before you build a design for it. As far as the specific locations identified, you know, the Lewiston site has that existing natural wave that's just about there. It's not surfable, but kayakers can use it. So theoretically, with slight modifications, that already kind of natural wave could be utilized for a more designed, controllable, functioning wave. In Lewiston, you also have that really nice park and campground. That, you know, Lewiston Lake is really underutilized, in my opinion. And so it would really bring a lot of economic opportunity to the Lewiston area. And there's already a bunch of existing infrastructure there, I think, to accommodate that. That's diverse in the goal of a whitewater park, not just being the wave, but bringing visitors. A lot of people, I think more people come to watch the people on the wave than even the wave users itself. And so it's really just a spark of another fire that is a tourism and community building block. The big flat spot, again, has that almost naturalized standing wave there with the required flow. You have all the rafting companies there. You have riverside businesses where people could sit and eat meals and listen to live music and watch standing wave competitions. And it's the tail end of the Pigeon Point run, which is the most popular run. I think we had over 6,000 river users last year between all of the rafting companies. That's what they reported going down the river. So I think the one site that's in Austria that was just put in, very rural site, in their first 6 months of being opened, 10,000 visitors came just to that area to visit the new wave. And so, you know, if one of these waves is generating that much interest, imagine having this corridor of waves going down the Trinity where you can have 3 competitions going on, and you can have a competition for a month instead of a weekend, things like that. That really diversifies the economic opportunity, I think. So I can blab on and on. You might have to cut me off.
No, that was helpful. Thank you.
Sorry. Pat, you guys are talking and I don't see you muted, but I'm not hearing anything from Pat or Carol. While they're sorting out their tech issues, Christian, you had started to say something.
Yeah, thank you for allowing me to comment, and good presentation, Jeremy. Yeah, I would like to second essentially what Mike was discussing regarding communities such as Buena Vista and Salida, Colorado. These are very small communities in which they've been implanted with these features, where in which you had steady economic growth associated with these sorts of with these features to accommodate essentially that feature. For instance, the construction of walking paths, the planting of native vegetation along the paths, along the streams, even for instance, interpretive centers, for instance, a great opportunity, for instance, like for ourselves here in Trinity County, something that would incorporate, the history of Trinity County, and or also, native histories, essentially, and having some sort of interpretive walk associated with it is a great opportunity for that to introduce, tourists, and also to educate our local community about our past. So yeah, one of these features essentially would be, and it'd be an incredible asset to our existing recreational opportunities that we have here in Trinity County. Essentially, we already have, all the mountain bike trails that are being, that are existing already in Weaverville and that are continuing to be constructed and improved upon. Alongside with all the other opportunities that we have here in Trinity County, along with access to our wilderness areas, to the lakes, for fishing opportunities. I think this would just be something, effectively something like equivalent of icing on the cake, for providing opportunities for ourselves that live here in Trinity County, and for others that are, that are passing through, or those that, may target this area because of this feature, to come from afar, essentially, to come and recreate and enjoy the Trinity River and our community. So I'd be in strong support of something like this in our community. Thank you for the opportunity for talking.
Okay, Kelly, can you hear us now?
Yes, I can.
Good. Okay, so I'm going to take Carol, and then we're going to have to figure out how to wrap this up so that we get to the rest of our agenda.
Yep.
So I just had, I guess, a question for Mike, which is, do you see any red flags or permitting issues that we need to kind of start working through from like Bureau of Reclamation, if we're, like from salmon fishery protection kind of aspects or other aspects that might, be something we need to kind of be prepared for?
I don't. I mean, there's hydraulic features like these all over the river, and like Supervisor Brown was saying, a lot of these proposed sites are just improvements of existing nascent waves.
Okay.
So, I don't think it would be a big deal, and the disturbance would be so transient, minuscule from the salmon's perspective.
That's great, because we have a friend that did the one in Reno, and it's a great thing. So I think it's a great idea too.
So Jeremy, originally this came up because at the last full collaborative meeting, he wants to make a presentation to the full collaborative. We suggested that the Recreation Committee would be a starting point. So I guess my question as facilitator is, so what's the ask of us to present to the full collaborative at this point?
At this point, no current ask. I just really wanted to get my foot in the door and see kind of how you all felt about it. Also to have the opportunity to present to Forest Service and BLM at the same time, I thought was incredibly valuable. And to have Mike Dixon on and kind of check a lot of the boxes off where concerns and questions would normally just give it a jump start on this inquiry. Moving on from here, I guess I would put the question towards Laura. How much money does BLM have towards this kind of project? And maybe same with Forest Service, you know. Also with the wilderness bill, Huffman's office, or that bill might be able to direct some dollars into a project like this. So, you know, I guess my next step would be to get, you know, the tribes involved and supportive of this project. And I did try to reach out to the tribes, and I just don't have that communication bridge built all the way yet. So that was kind of something I'd intended on and invited them to try to watch this presentation. But that would be just down the line. So, you know, no, I've never done a project like this. So, you know,
this better. Okay.
Technical next step is accept identifying partners and agencies that are supportive, and then funding.
Yeah, okay. So Sarah, it looked like you were primed to say something.
I want to put that in here.
No?
I heard Forest Service, so I figured I'd turn on my camera and show that I'm still here.
Oh,
But
okay.
our interest is going to be derived primarily on you know, where the location ends up being for the project. And certainly if we're looking at Forest Service areas, I'm happy to be engaged.
But give me this.
Okay. So Jeremy, I mean, so still want to make a presentation next week to the full collaborative?
I don't think I need any of this.
I would love to do that unless someone feels that it would not be beneficial. But I would love to kind of make sure that there's full support from all of the stakeholders in the community. That's very important. And, you know, with kind of Downeyville, I don't know whose microphone's on, but kind of with Downeyville, as an example, they have their mountain biking races where have, you know, hundreds of thousands of people visit every year, and these races that bring in millions of dollars, but there's still some people in the community that don't like the huge impact and the sudden flux of impact. And make sure that there's community support and obviously the scientific fishery of it. And so I think it's really neat to see other projects that have been done with river restoration or dam removal that have encompassed these recreational opportunities in the midst of it. It's really like a 3 or a 4 for 1, not just a 2 for 1.
Yeah. So Laura had some questions, comments. Did you want to bring them in the chat?
Yeah, just, I mean, we don't need to necessarily get them answered now, but it is a wild and scenic river. So if, you know, in your kind of planning, if you can look at examples, I'm sure there are some in Colorado that have happened on wild and scenic rivers, but those would probably be particularly important examples. And just the idea that like the impacts to the river might be minimal, but in the ones I've seen around Colorado and in Reno, like they become parks. You know, it's a lot of infrastructure around the river. So just thinking about that in terms of like where we're proposing them and what kind of, you know, you showed a lot of different examples of some looked more wild, some were more kind of engineered or park-like, but just thinking through those issues, because to me, that's going to be the major kind of change is really to the surrounding area, you know, with trails and parking and viewing areas and event space and all that sort of stuff is probably a bigger impact than the impact on the river.
Okay. So I think unless anybody has something else to bring up, we probably need to kind of move on in our agenda. Jeremy and everybody, thank you. So are you going to present it? Last thing, it seems like this is more of a Trinity River Management Council defining issue than a Trinity County Collaborative. We've really not gotten too engaged in river issues per se. So I would certainly suggest that you and Mike work together to present it to the TMC.
Okay, yeah, I'll reach out to Mike offline and discuss that. And I'm not a member on the TMC anymore, so I think
Yeah.
that'd be beneficial for being able to get a presentation in. And I really appreciate this opportunity and everyone's feedback.
And we'll see you next week.
All right. Yes.
Okay, thanks. So trying to get back to our agenda, we have about an hour and 15 minutes or so. So critical line officer report, staff resources updates. And Chris, you had to leave by 11. So do you want to start off?
Sure. Thanks for that. So yeah, actually have a lot of updates, mostly good and some, just to be aware of. But yeah, lots been going on that has an impact on recreation in Trinity County. And the first one, I wanted to let you know that yesterday I signed the decision memo for the Ewing Trails expansion around Ewing Reservoir and Hay Fork. So I've sent that along to the proper folks, and that means we can start to, when you're ready to start working on those trails, it can include Forest Service land. I did want to make sure that, did want to check one thing, and I'm really glad that BLM is on the call. I wanted to check with the BLM to see if they got any appeals on their EA. I see that's no. I figured it would be no. That's what I said in my decision. So, so we're good. I figured there's a 95% chance you weren't appealed on it. So I said that. Otherwise, we would have had to revise it. But so that's done. It's going to get posted today. It'll go through Jennifer Womack. Jennifer's going to get it out to folks. So that's one really good thing. Another thing that I think impacts recreation a little bit is we're doing a huge district cleanup day on May 25th. That's a Tuesday after next. And we're going to have over 50 district folks out on the ground cleaning up illegal dump sites around Trinity Pines. We've got support from the county. We've got Trinity Pines folks. We've got a lot of firefighters are going to be working. A lot of non-firefighters will be working. We've got folks from the community. We've got county environmental health. And we're working out some of the details. I or Logan Brown, our law enforcement, is going to speak on Tuesday to the Board of Supervisors to ask for an exemption from dump fees, because it looks like we're going to have like dozens of dump truck loads of trash. We're going to have hopefully an excavator out there and just picking up just some really giant, some giant dump sites that have been out there for years. So, there seems to be a lot of support. We've gotten a lot of support from the community and from the county. So just, I'm very hopeful that that'll work out well. And at the very least, it'll get a lot of us out there together, working on something together. Probably won't clean it all up, but we'll make a big dent in it. And hopefully we can do these on a regular basis. And like I said, we're asking the county to please see if they can waive the dump fees for that event. Want to talk a little bit about August, and Sally can probably add more on this, but as you probably know, the campgrounds around Forest Glen are closed, and they're going to be closed this summer just because there's too many hazards out there. The abatement of those hazards is part of the August recovery project phase 1. And so by fall, we should have all those hazards abated. But for now, we're going to need to have those 3 campgrounds, Forest Glen, Hellgate, and Scott Flat are all going to need to be closed. We do want to keep that one swimming hole at the entrance to Hellgate open. So if there's any hazards out there that we haven't known about, let me know, let my staff know. But we don't want to completely restrict folks from that area, but we can't have them camping out there this summer. And the last thing I wanted to share, which really isn't a recreation thing, but I know there's a lot of cross pollination between these groups. I was remiss in not notifying the collaborative that we went out for draft comment period on the pilot EA. I know that's not a recreation project, but I know a lot of you folks are involved with them. And so That actually went out on the 19th of April. I realized yesterday that we hadn't had a lot of, that we didn't probably do as much outreach as we should have. So we've extended the comment period until June 2nd. Kelly, Sheen, Stephanie Reese will make sure to get you that information. But it should have appeared in the paper today, another notice saying that we've extended the comment period. So not a recreation project, but the pilot project is around Hayfork, and it's going to have a lot of effects on fuels, and it is supported heavily by the collaborative. So those are my 4 or 5 items. And if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Thanks, Chris. As soon as we get that, we'll forward that on for people to have a look at. So thank you for getting that to us.
So questions for Chris? No. So I just had one thought on the extension on the pilot EA comments. Chris, have you considered actually putting a notice or a press release in the Trinity Journal instead of just the Record Searchlight?
No, but that's a good idea. We have our according to regulation, we have the legal notice has to appear in the newspaper of record, which is the Reading Record Searchlight, but we can definitely put some sort of notice. I'll speak to Stephanie about that.
Yeah, because I think the circulation of the Reading Searchlight in Trinity County is pretty minimal these days. They don't even do delivery to homes or mailboxes. So it's just the folks that pick one up at the grocery store kind of thing. So Trinity Journal might get you a little more exposure. Great. So if nothing else for Chris, kind of continue with Forest Service. So Sarah and Sally.
I just have a couple things to discuss from a forest-wide perspective. And then the rest of my topics will all be in the individual updates.
Okay.
So for our forest leadership team, I'm sure you're all aware we have a new forest supervisor. She's starting on Monday, Rachel Berkey. Our forest fire management officer, Ben Newbern, has also accepted a new position in, I believe, Utah. So we have an acting forest fire management officer, that's Todd Mack. And then our administrative officer at the forest has also accepted another position. Her name is Amy Lee. And she's, she hasn't worked with the collaborative directly, but she does a lot behind the scenes to support filling our positions. So I just wanted you to be aware of that transition going on at the leadership level of the National Forest, so we can all be aware that there's going to be new players needing to come up to speed. I thought it was especially important to highlight Ben Newbern as we're going into fire season, and I know that having local monitors is a big important part of how we like to operate in Trinity County. So that's it for me for now, and the rest of my updates can wait.
Okay. So Sally, do you have anything that's not an individual agenda item?
Staffing things over here. Our front office is going to be going through some transitions, and meeting that customer service is really important for us. Our 2 front desk workers are going to be resigning and retiring in June and July. So trying to get coverage to answer the phones and sell wood permits and other products is going to be weighing heavily on my shoulders, as I'll be taking over supervision of the front desk starting in June, I think. So that'll be coming onto my plate. So if you know anyone looking for summer work, have them call me if they have good customer service skills. Get
okay.
A lot of phone calls.
You'll do a great job. Okay. So if that from any other Forest Service, I'm not seeing anybody else to jump in. So Laura, how about the BLM?
Yeah, sorry, Jennifer couldn't be here today. She's off, but I don't think from last time we have any big staffing changes. We're hopefully going to have a seasonal maintenance worker advertisement out here in the next few weeks. So again, if you guys know folks who would be interested in that kind of job. Other than that, I don't see on here a spot to talk about our RMP. I can talk about that now.
That fits in updates right
Okay.
now.
Okay, right now. I'm on. Okay. So as you probably know, we're redoing our resource management plan. We're still in what's called the pre-NOI stage. So it's a lot of like gathering information, developing kind of preliminary alternatives. So that's what our staff will be working on for the next few weeks, is kind of getting our first attempt at preliminary alternatives. And then there'll be, after we do our, what's the NOI, the notice of intent in the Federal Register, we'll have a formal scoping period where folks will be able to review those preliminary alternatives and provide input and feedback in that way. So I know we've, asked for a lot of feedback already in this like pre-scoping, we call it, but kind of that will be the next big spot for public input, will be that scoping period. I don't have an exact timeline as of now, but coming soon in the next 6 months, maybe. And I thought I would just give a brief explanation of some of the recreation stuff you'll see in there. There's actually not all that many like recreation decisions that are land use plan decisions, but a lot of stuff that will set us up for future success. One of the main decisions we make is designating what are called recreation management areas, RMAs. And there's two kinds. There's special recreation management areas and extensive recreation management areas. For special recreation management areas, the kind of defining quality is that what's the word they use? The predominant use for that area is recreation. For extensive recreation management areas, the ERMAs, those are where we're balancing recreation concurrently with other things in that area. So it's concurrent management versus predominant management. So those are two of the kind of recreation big ticket items you'll see once we get to that scoping period. Again, we're maybe 6 months out from that. We're always happy to talk to folks about it and that sort of stuff, but we'll make sure we get those out to this group with maybe a little nudge about reminders about what these things mean when the comment period is open.
Right. So maybe even a short presentation to this group once the comment period is open would be useful.
Yeah, we can do that for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, that's kind of the status. Our pre-scoping comment period has closed. We're taking all of that information, all of the analysis of the management situation information, and using that to start alternatives development, which will start next week. So
Great.
Big lift for our staff then.
Yeah. Okay. So any questions for Laura, Sarah, Chris, or Sally? No? So let's kind of move on then. This was just to get an update, hopefully, from Sarah on the input that we provided on the concessionaire request for proposals, and how is that process going along?
Yeah, thank you guys for the good discussion. I was really glad that we had Joe Stubendig here to hear that directly the last time. So if there comes a point in the process where we're really looking for another round of update, of input, I'll be sure and have him here to have that conversation directly too. A couple updates that affect this prospectus from a nationwide level. There's a lot of difficulty that concessionaires are having getting insurance. The policies are too expensive due to wildfire risk. And so one thing that the Forest Service is doing nationally is looking at our policies around insurance requirements. And there's no adjustments that have been made yet other than sort of a temporary reprieve from some of those requirements. but that kind of change and look at that insurance stuff is coming. It's not going to affect our timeline at this point, because we are getting started on this really early and we have a good runway, but that is something that's going on nationally. The specifics of where we're at here is that we are finalizing the site list, looking at associated maps for what's going to be included. So if you have any specific sites that you want to ask about the status of, you can get those to me and I'll get those over to Joe. One thing I would appreciate your input on, since it speaks directly to what we talked about last time in terms of if there's a local interest, local people wanting to apply. If you know of any of these individuals or businesses or anything like that, we need contact information because we are putting together a mailing list for information to go out about the prospectus and the opportunity to apply. So if you have those individuals or businesses, please get those to me. There's not a deadline per se, other than as soon as possible. There is a pre-advertisement site tour potentially in the works for the end of July or August of this year. So ideally getting these folks' names and contact information before July would be good, but you know, sooner's always better. I think those are the big pieces of where the prospectus is at. So,
Okay.
any questions?
Any questions, folks? No, Carol? No?
No, just, it'd be good to ask Joe to revisit, the comments from last meeting and just, see which one of those might work, like the subcontractability and all that stuff, because there were some of those, which is a question of whether or not we could do them. So that would be great.
I'll follow up with him on that.
Great, thank you. Okay, so on trails, we still have Chris on for, is Chris on or gone? I didn't know if there, so Weaverville, what's happening? Weaverville Basin Trail System. We know the phase 1 NEPA was done already and signed. Is there upcoming work or anything? Sally?
Yeah, so our the conditions have gotten pretty dry to be out there constructing trails. Our partners and volunteers have completed the Browder Cabin climb, the multi-user trail, and it's fabulous. We get any rain, get out there on that trail and help pack it in. And then the blue lead coming down was completed, that downhill specific mountain bike trail. So that whole loop was completed. We're going to be working with some SCA crews, are going to be training. So they might get a little bit of trail work done while they're here for 10 days doing their onboarding training. But other than that, we're pretty well done with trail construction until the fall for the Weaverville Community Forest. Other trail work that's happening, we're going to have 5 SCA crews out working in the Trinity Alps and Yola-Boli wildernesses, doing post-fire bear work on the trails, and the backcountry CCC crew is out in the New River right now already working, redecking those bridges, and then they'll be heading out to Tangle Blue to start that project in July.
Okay, so any other information on Hayfork kind of area trails? We've heard about Ewing Reservoir Trail, NEPA. Is there anything else?
So, the Watershed Center YCC crew sometimes does some work on the South Fork River Trail. We're actually going to have an SCA crew out there working on it because it did burn over. We are getting new trailhead kiosks ordered through fire recovery money. So that's one of the things I'm working on. But not a lot of other trail work going on besides fire recovery.
So I have to ask, what's SBA? That sounds like Small Business Administration.
No, SCA, Student Conservation Association Trail Crew.
Gotcha.
We're paying them through agreements to be out there working for us.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, cool.
Hey, Pat. I just had one thing that I wanted to add.
Yeah, go ahead,
about the
Kelly.
trails. I had met with Mike McFadden out and we walked I think what's probably going to end up being called the Junkins Ditch and then the extension of the Howe Ditch. And looking at, those two newly incorporated system trails that were a product or, were added to the system after the NEPA was completed. And there's a lot of work that needs to be done out on those particular trails, but because of the high level of use for those trails, we wanted to, the RCD was going to be, since the TTA was doing a lot of the, and the RTA for that matter, we're doing a lot of the construction on the Browder and the Blue Lead and the Black Lead trails that were additions also through that NEPA. We figured we would focus more of our attention on, getting some of the other existing system trails, I'd say the new system trails that were previously user trails sort of brought up to the standard of the rest of the system. So we had a really good walk about and had a good look and have a sort of a plan for how we'll sort of approach getting funding for and what we would be prioritizing on those particular trails to start out with. And we had submitted a proposal to the National Forest System Trail Stewardship Partnership for some initial funding to do work on that, which unfortunately was not accepted, but we will probably be seeking funding for some of that trail work through RAC when the RAC is up and moving forward. So just wanted to sort of report out to this group that was the intention, is that with TTA sort of working more specifically on the trail construction, that we would be doing, some more of the like maintenance and sort of and bringing the new system trails up to speed.
Great.
We'll be continuing as that develops. I'll keep you all posted.
Okay. So Ross, Susan, anything to add on trails at this point?
No, I'm just happy to hear that that you're finding a way to deal with those adopted trails and getting moving on that as well.
Nothing new about the lake trail.
We get to share our woes about that one further down in the agenda.
Okay.
So Sally, Sarah, how about Laura? Do you have any trail things to kind of talk about, you guys?
Yeah, I think Chris covered it. Ewing Trails. I think we had just finished the NEPA, or we're just about to at the last meeting. So yeah, we've had that decision signed for a while, but I think the Watershed Center is still trying to wrap their head around construction of that. We're trying to support them in that where we can. So any creative ideas, always welcome. And other than that, I think Jessica's been working a little bit on the West Weaver Trail just to kind of make it a little better. It's kind of been in disrepair for a little bit. So we had a crew out there doing some work, and I think there's some minor improvements we're hoping to do in the coming weeks here.
Okay, cool. Sarah, anything?
Real quick,
Kelly,
before we move off of BLM, I just wanted to, for Earth Day, we had a fairly significant number of our staff that went down and did some garbage pickup, because there's like a lot of encampments and stuff off the Mill Street kind of entrance to that trail. So we got a fair bit of garbage out of there, and just sort of wanted to report out that we appreciated the fact that there was a level of responsiveness from the BLM to try to address some of the access. There was a lot of like trucks and OHVs and stuff that were getting up onto the power line from that side, and I think there was some tank trapping that was done, and some like heavy, boulders were put in place. So thanks to the BLM for, actually addressing some of those issues that we were getting comments from as like, stewards for the community forest, that there was a number of incursions, and they were kind of like all hours of the night and all this kind of craziness. And we called out the BLM, and within the week we had folks out there on the ground doing some work to try to address some of that. So thanks to the BLM and Laura for being responsive.
Yeah, I'll pass that along for sure.
Great. Okay, so the next item again is kind of a rerun, just to kind of keep us focused on what has happened or is happening with Great American Outdoor Act funding. So what's getting implemented? So just kind of what's getting implemented this summer, what's up for getting funded 2022, and what do people think about for 2023? And I'm not sure who wants to take the lead on that, but take it away. Maybe Sarah.
Yeah, I can start, and I think then probably Sally would be well equipped to speak to some of the particulars of other projects. So for 2021, I know all of the projects that the Forest Service, the Shasta Trinity was awarded funds for this year were put into the system in a timely manner to go through our procurement process and get, eventually out to the public. So that's really good. That's been a huge workload across the whole forest for the last month, is trying to get all of those projects into our various procurement systems. As far as 2021, I have a couple of updates on specific projects. The Bowerman Barn work needed to do a little bit of rescoping on what that project was. So what we came up with our engineering team, and I believe Carol went out as well, maybe with Pete, yes, good, was to remove the roofing, place plywood sheathing under the roof, and then put the roof panels back on and replace panel by panel if there are any holes. And so the intent is to improve the structural stability of the roof, and that has been submitted and is in the system. I think one of the other projects is some work on getting the water line fixed at Stony Point Campground. Sally, do you have any more kind of project specific GAOA updates that you could share?
South Fork, we have gone to contracting to purchase all the infrastructure, the minor infrastructure that we're going to be putting out. We have agreements with the Watershed Center to implement that portion of the project. Sorry, I was multitasking with Cliff. We have agreements with the Eastern Sierra Conservation Corps to complete the Landers Loop project in the next, whenever she can get up there and work on it, and agreements with the backcountry CCCs to do the Granite Lake Trails Deferred Maintenance Project.
Okay.
Does that answer questions?
Sure. So Laura, how about you guys? Do you have any 2021?
We don't.
Okay.
We don't have any GOA projects.
Okay.
Start with that. I'm interested in learning more about it. So if anyone from the Forest Service or from this group knows more than I do, which is very little, that's on my list of things to learn about as potential funding sources.
So how about 2022? So things were submitted for funding, right? And are there things, have you gotten word yet for the next year yet?
I believe we have not received official word on what has been funded or not, but Sally may know more recent information than I do.
So we were supposed to find out in March, and we still don't know. The word is now May. right? It's now the middle of May. The portal is open, so we are kind of on standby to submit any future projects until we hear what was funded for 22.
And so when are 2023, when is the next round? When are they due, or you don't have a due date yet?
Supposedly the portal's going to close in July, but that was under the constraints that we were going to find out in April about fiscal year 22 stuff. So they seem to be changing, and hopefully they adjust that so we can get projects together.
Okay.
So I have a question about the process. So when Pete and Fred and I were out at Bowerman, if I understood correctly, some projects are programmed in for multi-year funding, it sounded like. And so, but right now Bowerman had only been programmed in for the one initial funding, and there seemed to be a process to get projects in the loop for multi-year funding. Am I anywhere close in trying to figure that out?
So the process that we've been working so far is there was an opportunity to have multi-year funding. The funding that you do get doesn't have to necessarily be spent September 30th. It's no year money. So whatever doesn't happen can continue to work with that money. Some people wanted to do like a 4-phase project. They tried for 4 years of money. That's not what they did for Bowerman, obviously. The process is we as a forest put our projects into the portal, and then those go to the zone where they're prioritized. And then at that point, only so many projects get submitted to the regional office for consideration. And then those get prioritized at the regional office. Sarah, shake your head no, if this is not how you're understanding it's happening. And then those go to the Washington office. Depending on the funding amount, some will get selected at the Washington office, and some can be directly funded out of money that is from GAOA, money given to the region. That was all under the old administration. We obviously have a new president, and which is one reason we're being told that the project list is not yet selected. So your guess is as good as mine as we move forward.
Okay, so then I guess my request is if it does open up, or if the process is most appropriate, could we get Bowerman in there as a multi-year proposal? Because I think it's going to be I don't know that we would get enough money one shot. I mean, we could definitely phase it out. Do the foundation improvements 1 year and the roof and all that. So
it's a very competitive, highly competitive funding source. And the forest, I believe, only submitted 3 or 4 projects in total to the regional, only 3 or 4 projects from the Shasta Trinity were submitted from the zone to the regional office. So we're doing our best to combine projects to then get them down, at least down to the regional office.
Well, could you combine it with the lookout? What is it, the Hayes or whatever lookout that's also on the National Register of Historic Places? Somehow that one got included as a multi-phased project. It's just a little lookout. So
that wasn't one of mine, Carol, so I don't have a lot of specifics about that one. My apologies.
It's on the Shasta side, yeah. So, but I mean, to me, like restoring things that are on the National Register of Historic Places, if those were all lumped, those seems like that would be a pretty high priority, especially because I noticed the National Park Service is now starting to contribute money. So you might be able to get matching money, from the National Park Service for those.
That seems like a really good idea, Carol, to maybe do a combined full zone request for all historic buildings that need, instead of just doing a Shasta Trinity, but to elevate it up to the zone and do a combined project with the zone.
Okay, I'm always worried the barn's going to fall down before we get it fixed. So
yeah,
you know me.
Yeah,
Thanks.
so I can at our next rec officer meeting, I'll bring that up to Brenda and Andrew, and maybe Brenda can start talking to the other forests about historic buildings that need work. I mean, so our mule barn here needs a new roof and needs new wiring that we've been putting in for money as well.
Well, but I'm thinking, specifically of things that are on the National Register of Historic Places. Those seems like that should be a pretty high priority. Anyway, that's just
We
my
don't, we don't
2
set the priority, so that's the hard part for us.
No, but
We don't
seems
set
like
that
it'd be easier
Washington.
to argue that should be a high priority, I guess is my point. So, okay, I don't want to belabor it. I'm just trying to figure this out. Thanks.
Okay, so anything else on the Great American Outdoor Act at this point? So weather feels like it's time to go camping. So what's the schedule for campground openings and stuff?
Everything, we're trying to open everything according to our normal schedule. So the crew's down river working right now, trying to get Hayden all weed whacked and ready to go. We've already had reservations at Pigeon Point, Skunk Flat, and Upper Hayden. Burnt Ranch, Jeremy, is going to be a hard one for us to open on time this year. Our staffing levels are about half of what they normally are. We were not successful in temp hiring this year. So that'll be a little bit later on our list when we can get that one opened. Because once we open it, we also have to service it and get the trash out and make it safe to open. So we'll get that one open as soon as we can.
Okay, I believe at Grays Falls site, there's an abandoned car in front of the gate.
I'm gonna let the Styx Rivers handle that one because I can't take on their issues too, but I can send Bryson a note. That's actually on the Styx Rivers. Everything on the north end should be opening according to their normal schedule. We're doing the best we can with very limited resources this year.
Del Loma's already open, is that right? I think.
Del Loma's a river access without a gate, so we don't ever close Del
Campground.
Loma.
Is it Hayden Flat Campground?
Springs is already open.
Yeah, Hayden Flat's actually open year round. The bottom
okay.
is open year round, and we opened up the top one last week.
I've got to put these away.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Kelly.
Where I'm going.
Any other questions about campgrounds around the area?
Anybody have any questions? Go ahead. No? Okay. Okay, so any
Oh, wait.
updates? Go ahead,
Let
Laura.
me do our campgrounds.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
That's okay. We're still looking for hosts. We have one, but we'd like 2 or even 3. So again, just if you know anyone, we're trying to be creative about advertising that. But we're still planning on opening Junction City, Steel Bridge, Douglas City. That'll be the Wednesday before Memorial Day, so here in a few weeks. We're grateful that RCD is going to help us out with doing some of the work, so thank you, Kelly, for that. And yeah, the one kind of thing I should bring up is we are going to keep first of all, the showers at Douglas City will be closed until we get some better COVID guidance on cleaning the showers. And then the second thing is we're going to keep Steiner Flat Campground closed. That's the free campground that's down kind of at the end of the road. We're going to be doing improvements on that campground, putting in tables and fire rings and better tent pads and those sorts of improvements that will make it qualify for a fee in the future, hopefully. So that's kind of in an effort to figure out how to better manage that whole area so we don't get the kind of living situations we had this past summer. Yeah, any questions on our stuff?
Any questions on campgrounds, Forest Service or BLM?
Actually, sorry, one more thing, one go back. We are working on a business plan right now to change the fees at our campground. So hopefully in the next few months, we'll have a draft out for public comment on that. So I will make sure that that gets out to all of you folks. And obviously we're looking for lots of public input on that sort of thing.
Okay. Okay, great. If nothing else on campgrounds, how about any update, Sarah, on our wildlife report for the multi-use trail?
I do have an update.
Great.
So It's not on the wildlife report, but it's on the trail project in general.
Okay,
And so I met with my ID team on this project, got some better history on the planning and the concerns. And so we are going to be moving forward this summer with a stretch of the trail. I can share a map, I think. Actually, I don't know if I can share a map in Zoom. Oh, okay. Share. Okay. So this pink section is currently unauthorized but user created. We're going to move forward this summer with authorizing this section, and that will make it eligible to be brought up to Forest Service standard when we have the implementation staff to do that work, or working with a partner to bring that up to Forest Service standard. So that's where we can move forward right now. I have encouraged my staff to prioritize doing that because I realize this whole area has been a long time in our court, and I think some progress is better than none. I got some more specific information about the concerns with the proposal, and it seems to mostly focus on this connection of the orange proposed stretch to the pink proposed stretch, and some culvert issues, and the fact that this pink piece, you'd have to basically bike along Highway 3 for a stretch of that, and that is a safety concern from the ID team. I think what would be beneficial for us to be able to figure out the next step would be a field trip when it is appropriate for us to do field trips again, because I don't have a good enough understanding of what the thinking is, and it's pretty hard for me to visualize from a computer, you know, a trail route and how we would see resolving safety concerns. So that would be my thinking, and I'd be happy to take some feedback on it. But I did move this up our priority list a little bit, and that's how far I was able to get since our last meeting with the staff.
well, thank you, Sarah. So any thoughts, questions, comments at this point? It's the first time I've seen a map.
So I believe that Ross and everybody walked that stretch along Highway 3 with Mike McFadden many years ago when we initially laid this project out. So I'm not sure which staff you're getting information from, but Ross and Susan can give you an update, I'm sure.
I would love to, anytime you want to go out there, I would love to go out there and take a walk with you. And
Thank
show
you, Ross.
It was part of the original proposal. That was part of what we were, of the map that we submitted. It moved the trail off of Highway 3 and down across where that culvert was. That's why we're waiting for Caltrans to do the work. So I don't know why it's missing now, that part.
I don't know either. And I would say I can totally appreciate the frustration if, you know, we've done this field trip years ago. I mean, but I was not here years ago. And so I'm trying to come up
Sarah
to
just
speed.
wants to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
I just want to see it.
You need to see it. And thank you for at least, you know, figuring out a way we can at least talk about it and move forward possibly. And I think bringing the other, you know, the pink piece up to standards is a good idea as well. So we can connect it.
Yeah, it's really used a lot, but it does need to be upgraded. Yeah, the pink piece.
So, I mean, there's, as of yesterday, brand new CDC guidelines on outdoors for vaccinated people and indoors for vaccinated people. So are you all as agency folks waiting for guidance from above on when you can go outside with other people?
Yeah, we are. we're a little, you know, there's the CDC, and then it has to filter through
the
rest of the federal government.
But
I'm totally vaccinated, and I do like to wear my mask because it tells what tribe I'm with.
Cool.
So maybe, Sarah, as you get some guidelines and some on when you guys can go back out with field tripping, you can get with us and we can try to pick a date, a time, to set up the field trip.
Yeah. I think once we get that guidance about, how we can do public field trips, how we're supposed to, engage, I see that coming. It won't ever be as soon as I would like, but if the CDC is changing their guidance, then I would hope it'll be sooner rather than later.
Yeah. Okay, great.
And if you get a chance, you just might want to chat with Mike McFadden. I know he's a hard guy to get a hold of. He's really busy, but you might just, get his initial take on the, what was being proposed for the trail there.
Susan.
Oh, I just wanted to say, have we heard anything from Caltrans recently on the culvert issues? Okay.
It's still on their work plan for next year, 2022.
Because they're going to wait until after they repave and then they'll.
Yeah, they're repaving that right now. Well, they repaved it last year. They're repaving just north of there now.
So that way they can have to patch up their new pavement. Okay, so Minersville.
I have an update there too.
Good.
So we've been in conversation with DBOW about that for a while, and their engineering team, after much delay, has picked up Minersville and is working on a conceptual redesign to have pull-through parking at Minersville. So I don't have a timeline on that. They didn't have a timeline to give, but DBOW is actually working, and that's more progress than we've had in a year.
Okay, well, great. Questions about Minersville?
Yeah, this is Paul. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Paul.
Well, yeah, to jump in, we had this idea talked about before to go ahead and start on the ramp this season with historically low lake levels, which just seems like unremarkable common sense. Is there any chance to do that?
There's no way. Our procurement deadlines are ridiculously early.
I mean, this is deja vu all over again, Sarah. We're going to lose this money.
I haven't gotten that from DBOW.
Well, right now,
it's been in their court, and they've granted us every extension for that funding because they know that it's their delay.
When the lake fills up, it won't be their delay.
That's true.
So maybe that's one thing that right now the grant expires in February, so less than a year. So would it be appropriate now to actually get it in writing that they're going to extend it for another couple of years?
I think that'd be something good to look at in the fall. They just gave us word that they were starting to work on that redesign, I believe a week ago. So I think we have some space to get some more information on them about how long it's going to take. I would hope that we can get something into contracting this fall. And if we can't, then that would be where I would have the conversation about another extension.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So anything else on Minersville then?
I don't have anything else.
Okay. And probably I just got it on there just as a reminder that it's an issue, is the houseboat permitting. I'm assuming there's no change.
No change.
Last thing I had, I think we've already talked about, was on Bowerman Barn, at least Great American Outdoor Act roofing, but is there more on Barman Barn that we need to talk about? Carol, you got anything?
Oh, the only thing I got is we just got 1,000 each of the 2 different brochures paid for by TLRA. So I have a huge box of brochures. Do you want me to drop those off, some of those off at the Weaverville Ranger Station? Because I'll just restock the brochures at the barn all the time in our visitor center. But if you want, I can bring some down to Weaverville.
That would be great, Carol. We'll put them at the front kiosk here in those little inserts. That'd be great.
Okay, I will do that. And that should last us for a couple years. And then after that, we'll have to find more funding, but 1,000 of each will definitely last for a couple years.
Pat, I got a question on the houseboats, if we can just real quick.
Yeah, okay, go back.
Yeah. Sarah, just your opinion. We got Huffman to write actually what I thought was a really good letter on the houseboats, and of course the Forest Service just completely blew him off. He was in the minority then. Now he's chair of Oceans and Lands, and in the majority. I feel very confident he would write another letter for us. Would it make more difference given those circumstances and a new forest supervisor, or are we wasting our time?
I don't know administratively that it will make much of a difference because Chief Christensen has already responded. I think legislatively, however he would like to proceed is how he would like to proceed, and I can't speak to any of that. So I would say it's always worth a shot. I don't know how Rachel will respond. I don't know her. I will be very honest. I haven't interacted with her much. So it's going to be a getting to know you thing for me too, along with everybody else.
So just to throw that out to the other committee members, you don't want to make an ask of something like this of Huffman. You got to keep that political capital for when it's needed. But maybe we ought to try to discuss this issue with the new forest supervisor. I mean, it still seems like a slam dunk win for the Forest Service, even though we can't seem to get anybody to recognize that.
I certainly would think kind of the starting point would be with a new supervisor, be an opportunity to kind of discuss it, broadly, broadly initially about just the recreation committee and the things we've been focused on, and then focus down on some of the tougher issues like the houseboat one. I think that would be appropriate.
Well, and perhaps Secretary Vilsack, because this is something that, we brought up in 2013. So if he's back on as Secretary of Agriculture, it's kind of his call too, right?
And I know Sarah and the Forest Service staff have to be careful about what they say and where they go on these kind of discussions. So
yeah.
Yeah, I agree, Pat. Let's start with the new supervisor and see if we get any traction. And I mean, this is just seems so easy. I don't know why it can't be. Yeah,
it does. And she starts just next week, right?
She said start
Monday.
Okay.
Did she start last Monday or this Monday?
The 16th, 17th, whatever next Monday is.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay. So any other topics that I didn't get on the agenda that people want to bring up?
I have one.
Okay, go ahead, Sarah.
So one thing we've been, I think I've mentioned this a little bit, but it's Shasta Lakeside. We were seeing a lot of tree mortality around our campgrounds. That's continued. Shasta Lake campgrounds are hit really hard with hazard trees. What we're trying to do at Trinity Lake is, as best we can, get ahead of that. And I say that realizing that I'm speaking from the Forest Service, talking about getting ahead of something. So, I understand. but we are trying. So right now we're in the pre-planning phases for a project we're tentatively calling Trinity Camps. And it's going to be some hazard tree removal, thinning around campgrounds around Trinity Lake in the NRA. And it's to try and prevent the kind of widespread tree mortality and hazard tree issues that we're seeing at Shasta Lake. Basically, the trees are dying from drought stress and bark beetle, and that's slowly moving up in elevation on the national forest. So very
Great.
early stages.
So the only suggestion there is somehow allow some firewood cutting or because a lot of times if people take down the hazard trees and they let the locals know, the trees will disappear.
And that's great. Yeah. We'll want to allow for some of that and not just have it be set aside for timber.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, great. Anybody, anything else? Sally, you had something, I think.
Yeah, so a fun project we're working on is, this is gonna be weird. Oh, I'll have to turn my background off. Okay, so I'm not sure if any of you have seen this. It's the South Fork Management Trail brochure. It is a horrible product, horrible. This is the trail brochure. So I got tied in with the cartographer getting new wilderness kiosk maps made. And we have graphic designers at our regional office that are there to help us, which I had no idea we had. So we're working with the regional office to get a foldable trail brochure created for the South Fork Management Unit, which is a project we've been trying to work on with Josh at the Watershed Center for about 6 years. So the cartographer is paid for, and it's just, I'm hoping it will bring people to the South Fork to recreate,
Cool.
Which is exciting for us.
That's great. Yeah.
Fun projects are cool.
So we used it years ago on the South Fork, trail and didn't get lost. So it's not that bad. we
I want something
home.
sexy so people will go there.
I get it. Anybody? So Laura, anything else to add?
I don't think so. I think we covered most of the stuff. Like I said, we're pretty wrapped up in RMP world.
Yeah. Okay. Ross, Susan, anything?
No. We're
Ready for a field trip?
We're happy about the field trip.
Yeah. Paul?
No, nothing else.
Sarah?
Said what I need to, guys. Thanks for the opportunity to come and talk.
Okay. Kelly, you have anything?
Nope, not at this time.
How about you, Sally? And Jessica, who we didn't hear from, she just kind of been listening in. So I have one last, just kind of file it away, but don't file it too far away, is that it looks like the Title II RAC is going to get actually meeting and moving with the first meeting on June 7th, and then another meeting on 2 weeks later, and then 2 meetings in July. So be thinking about shovel-ready projects that we can promote for funding through the Title II RAC for recreation projects. There's not millions of dollars, but my thought is there's a few $100,000 to be allocated. And I certainly, as a RAC member, will advocate for things that can be done quickly because the money has been already sitting around since 2018. So think about project ideas, that we can all support.
Yeah.
Is that just Forest Service, or can the BLM get that money too?
Well, it's kind of, the law says that the Title II funds can be used on BLM land. It might be a harder sell than a Forest Service project to the RAC members, but they're pretty much all new RAC members. So I think, good proposals, that I think you got to show a link to benefits on Forest Service land if it's not Forest Service land. But I think it's doable. So with that, if there's nothing else, we're a little ahead of schedule.
Hey, Pat.
Yes, go ahead,
I
Sarah.
thought I had everything, but I got an answer to the subcontracting question about the prospectus. So there's a clause in the permit that addresses subcontracting. And it says, as a general rule, the permit holder shall conduct the day-to-day activities authorized by the permit. Some, but not all of these activities may be conducted by a party other than the holder. So some, but not all of the things can be subcontracted with prior written approval from the Forest Service. So we don't have the ability to force them to subcontract. That's not something we can do. But if the concessionaire has the interest, we can approve them to do that. Does that answer your question?
Well, so how can you, the problem with Preacher Meadow was the backcountry horseman wanted to take it over, and for some reason the concessionaire was saying no.
Even though it was closed.
Even though it was closed. So that's the issue we're trying to fix. The backcountry horsemen wanted to invest in it and fix it up and make it for stock. They were going to put in a corral and all that stuff. But it wasn't open, but for some reason the concessionaire didn't want it open or didn't want to subcontract. So anyway, just think about that. That's the issue.
Okay, thank you for giving me the specifics around that.
Yeah. And thanks for the answer.
Yeah.
Okay, if nothing else, we'll say everybody enjoy your Friday after. Oh, Ross.
The horsemen some of the campsites weren't big enough to bring a trailer and everything into. So there was going to be hiker biker campsites inside there that were going to be used. And that's the closest campground to Trinity Center. And so people can spend some money in Trinity Center. And then it's also would be used by the trail around the lake that people would stop there and also access Trinity Center. So it was important to me, and I think it's important to the community to have that campsite open. That's it.
Great. Okay. Third time is a charm. I think we're done now. So everybody enjoy your Friday afternoon. We'll see a lot of you next Friday for the full collaborative.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Hey, Pat, can you stay on?
Sure.
Just real quick. So I saw all the flurry of emails and stuff like that. And it sounds like from what Chris reported today, that they had flown the thing in the Record Searchlight and not the Trinity Journal.
Yes.
That's probably why nobody knew that had happened.
Right. Plus they didn't do what used to be customary, which was, emailing it out to parties.
Partners.
The RCD has always gotten what they used to be called green sheets, but the notice letter and nobody from he pretty much said he knew he's kind of screwed up.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna